got the Harihari, he thought, well, the swamp, this Fontaine swamp looks a pretty good field, so he went in there, but his nose went into the swamp and he sort of turned upside down.
What sort of plane did he use?
Oh, an avian, A-V-I-A-N, a little high-wing monoplane.
And he took a single-engine plane?
Single engine, yes.
And how long would the journey have taken him?
Oh, 13 and a half hours, I think it was.
This is from Mascot Airport in Sydney?
Yes, to the swamp at Harihari.
And what about those navigation aids we hear so much about these days?
Oh, I think he had a watch and a compass and a map on his knee, and that's about all he had.
In January 1931, Harihari, a tiny farming township about 70 kilometres south of Ōkarito, was the unlikely landing spot for the first solo flight across the Tasman. Guy Menzies, a 21-year-old Australian, landed his single-engine aircraft, Southern Cross Junior, in nearby LaFontaine Swamp, after a flight from Sydney. The crossing took less than 12 hours. Menzies knew that the authorities would not allow him to undertake the dangerous flight to New Zealand, so told them, and his parents, that he was flying to Perth. However, once he was in the air, he headed off in the opposite direction towards New Zealand. Menzies flew without a life raft or charts and had only a primitive compass. Flying at an altitude of over 3,500 metres in an open cockpit, he just about froze to death. Menzies encountered bad weather during his flight and was driven off course from his planned destination of Blenheim. At one stage, he suddenly lost altitude and plummeted earthwards, being able to taste salt spray as he was so close to the ocean. When Menzies finally reached New Zealand's rugged west coast, he realised he had little fuel left, so landed at the nearest available spot. He mistook the flax swamp at Harihari for a grassy paddock. His small biplane landed safely at first, but then flipped over, leaving Menzies hanging upside down. When he released his harness, he fell headfirst into the mud, but otherwise suffered no injuries. Initially, local residents refused to believe that Menzies had flown across the Tasman Sea, and were only convinced when he produced a sandwich bag from Sydney Airport. After that, he received a hero's welcome, and he and his plane then toured the west coast before returning to Australia. Today, the swamp has been drained, and now actually is a grassy paddock. The landing spot near Harihari is marked by a memorial plaque that was unveiled as part of celebrations in 2006, the 75th anniversary of Menzies' flight.
Only on the west coast would you find a brass band sitting on the edge of a paddock, in full uniform, with instruments and music stands, welcoming dignitaries and visitors to Menzies' landing spot in a Harihari swamp.
After Menzies arrived back home, he continued flying and later served as a pilot during the Second World War. Sadly, he was shot down over the Mediterranean Sea and killed. As well as the memorial, a park in Harihari recalls his solo flight with a large mural showing him in the swamp, hanging upside down from his aircraft. Menzies' time of 11 hours and 45 minutes was more than 2.5 hours faster than the first ever flight across the Tasman, which was undertaken in 1928 by Charles Kingsford Smith and his crew. Some Kiwis unkindly point out that Menzies' aircraft's registration, GABCF, stood for, "Geez, Australian bastards can't fly."